Hello there everybody, this is Dracoak and you are watching my channel. Thank you very much for clicking on this video because today I am going to tell you 50 generally unknown yet exclusively useless facts about pre-release Vanilla WoW. And I'm going to let you know now before someone goes off in the comments, sending death threats and stuff like, oh, yeah, these aren't all from pre-release. This was from patch 1.0.5, Dracoak. Well, yeah, they may not all be from before release. Like, there's a couple of facts that are about Battlegrounds that were at the very beginning of, like, BG's release. But, as most of you know, Battlegrounds weren't added until, like, patch 1.5. So it's obviously not an alpha or beta fact, but I still feel like facts or bugs that are like that still qualify for this video, so I put them in anyways. If you want to see more content like this in the future, please subscribe, and if you're already subscribed to me, don't forget to hit that little bell next to the sub box to enable the post bell notifications. Then the little dialog box will pop up, and you just gotta hit the check mark and click save. That is the only way YouTube will actually notify you when I post. Anyways, let's get rolling. Number 1. Hellfire Peninsula was originally supposed to be a level 54 to 60 zone on Azeroth, and was still located in the game files. Haven Games actually has a really good video where he explores it, and I definitely just highly recommend checking it out because it's super interesting. Number 2. Skullomance wasn't originally supposed to be an instance. In fact, it was just going to be an outdoor area with elites, but the developers turned it into something so big and it was just so good they decided to turn it into an instance. Number 3. There used to be shields and bucklers. Bucklers were for rogues and hunters, and shields were for the other classes that still use shields at launch. Of course, you'll still see some things in the game that are called bucklers, but now they're just labeled as a shield type now, and obviously cannot be used by rogues or hunters. Number 4. The discipline spec for priests was originally supposed to be a melee spec, sort of like monks in other games like EverQuest, and that's why the inner fire ability gives attack power. Number 5. In the beta, dwarves could play as mages. Number 6. If you've ever wondered why in the starter areas there's lots of different cloaks with the exact same stats, it's because originally cloaks also had armor types such as cloth, leather, mail, or plate. So you would have cloth cloak, leather cloak, plate cloak, mail cloaks, and that kind of thing. And they were eventually all changed to the same armor type. So the cloaks that were already there with the same stats that were originally different armor types were left in. Number 7. Apparently in the original design before Alpha, Horde and Alliance were only supposed to get 100 quests each. Number 8. The Emerald Dream was supposed to be released in Vanilla as either a zone, continent, or raid, but the idea was scrapped, but you could still find Emerald Dream zones in the game files. Number 9. Tauren originally weren't going to have mounts. They were to receive an ability called Plains Running at level 40 that you'd get from Saren Pride Runner on the Hunter Eyes of Thunderbluff. This would, make you go the same speed as regular mounts. This was removed in the beta and Kodos were added. Number 10. Tauren couldn't fit through the Molten Core entrance window next to the High Elf that gives you that attunement quest. Number 11. Nomer was originally going to be a city with an elevator and Ironforge that would lead to it, but since that would create an imbalance between factions, they ended up changing it to an instance. Number 12. Humans and orcs were the first races added to the game. Number 13. In case you didn't know, in the lore, Goldshire is actually a very, very large village compared to what it looks like in the game. And it's actually a town with tons of people. But they realized they couldn't make all the other starting zone quest hubs that big, so they had to remove a bunch of the buildings and basically made it to where all the quest hubs in the game are more like outposts than they are actual villages. Number 14. Originally, the undead were able to communicate with the Alliance, which definitely makes sense lore-wise since they were human at one point, but it's obvious why this wasn't able to make it to the live version of the game. Number 15. Undead were also originally actually undead, so they could be hit by abilities like Exorcism from Paladins, which is an ability that only works on undead or demon targets. Number 16. This is one I thought was super interesting that I didn't know about, but Will of the Forsaken, which is the undead racial that removes any charm, sleep, or fear effect, was originally a passive ability that just made you immune to those effects. This should be completely obvious why that was removed. I mean, like, could you even imagine, though? Because that would be fucking insane. Like, it's just so OP that it needless to say, it did not last long at all. Number 17. Cloaks originally weren't visible at all, with no option to make them visible until the beta because it was just due to popular demand. A bunch of players requested it. Number 18. There was originally no guards in neutral cities. Number 19. The charge abilities that warriors have would teleport you to the enemy instead of just making you run at them with increased speed. Number 20. The warrior recklessness ability used to reduce people's armor to 0. Pretty obvious why they changed that. Number 21. Another thing about warriors, their retaliation ability used to have no animation, and since you couldn't see enemy buffs, they could pop it and like on rogues, and they would have a very, very small chance of noticing it. So extremely OP ability. Just the animation changed that much, you know. Number 22. After a vanilla patch, there was a bug where warriors got an extra talent point for some reason, which obviously was another thing that made them overpowered. 23. Spell types used to have a level system of sort like weapon skills. Like when you increase your skill in maces, swords, wands, whatever else, you know, you'd increase your skill in fire, frost, arcane, etc. Number 24. The warlock spell Banish had a 30-minute cooldown for some reason. Number 25. The warlock Felsteed mount used to be called Nightmare. Number 26. The warlock succubus pet had less clothes on it, and more were added later on by release. Number 27. This one is crazy. Warlocks could actually summon people into battlegrounds, including people who were higher or lower than the level bracket for whatever battleground they were in. So if you were in like Warsong Gulch at first, before it was fixed, you could summon, you know, you're in 20 to 29 level bracket Warsong Gulch, you could summon a level 60 guildie and just wreck the other team. It's pretty crazy. Number 28. Before hunters got the Feigned Death ability, it was an ability for rogues and druids. 29. Similar to how rogues have lockpicking, mages had an ability called Khadgar's Unlocking. Number 30. There was supposed to be a battleground called Ajara's Crater that got scrapped for some reason, and that reason is unknown, but it could still be found in the game files. Number 31. All 4 parts of the Scarlet Monastery was originally going to be one massive instance, but thankfully, because it was so big, they did split it into the 4 wings that we know today. Number 32, this is something pretty much everyone knows, but I still feel like I should mention it nonetheless. Claire housing was tested very briefly, but obviously this was scrapped by launch. Number 33. This one is something I didn't know before, and I even went back to check because I thought it was pretty cool. If you look back at the original WoW cinematic, half of Silithus is missing because on the map it wasn't added at the time, you know? And I thought that was really interesting. I went back to the cinematic to check it out. It's just pretty crazy. Number 34, the last class to be added was during the beta, and it was Hunters. Number 35, Paladin's Judgment spell used to have a cast time. Number 36, Paladins did have Crusader Strike and Holy Strike in the beta. Not sure exactly why they were removed, but I'm assuming it was just OP and it caused some balancing issues. Number 37, the Paladin's Holy Wrath spell was called Judgment at one point. Number 38, the Shaman's Wind Fury could proc off of itself, so they could technically one-shot raid bosses if they were extremely lucky. Number 39, Mages and Priests both had another CC that was a spell called Sleep. Number 40, the Rogue's Eviscerate ability used to not scale at all, so a rogue with no gear would do the same amount of damage with that ability as rogues that were full best in slot. Number 41, Druids originally couldn't cast for a few seconds after shifting form, and there was a talent that allowed them to do that. Number 42, after the Hunter Feign Death ability ended, the Hunter would really die. Number 43, for some reason the Hunter's survival talent tree was originally called Outdoorsmanship. Thank fuck they changed that. That is just such a shitty name for a spec. Number 44, Hunters originally did have focus as the resource system to cast spells, but since it would regenerate while standing still and was really just overpowered, Hunters ended up getting mana by launch, as we all know. Number 45, Bind on Pickup used to be called Bind on Acquire. That's right, the original BOAs were not heirlooms. Number 46, for some reason everyone used to be able to see the spirit healers, including the people who weren't dead. Number 47, when they first introduced Battlegrounds, when you would enter the BG, the groups weren't automatically formed, so it would basically just be a spam fest of please, invite me please, until they manually made the group. Number 48, in the alpha, there was a profession called survival skills, which I talked about in one of my other videos. It would make torches and campfires, which the latter of the two was obviously added to cooking later on. And the torches were used to increase your view distance at nighttime, because originally in places like Duskwood, it would get really dark and you could only see about, 20 to 30 yards ahead of you without a torch. I really do wish they would have kept that mechanic to kind of add to the immersion, you know what I mean? But I understand why they got rid of it. Number 49, Death Knights, along with several other classes, were originally going to be released with vanilla, but were obviously saved for later. Number 50. Okay, so this last one, not really related to pre-release or vanilla in general, but it blew my mind. I don't know why, but it did. Tauren is actually an anagram for nature. Right? Yep. Yeah. Just think on that for a minute. Anyways, alright folks, that's all 50. Hopefully you learned something from this video, and if not, then be sure to leave a death threat in the comments. Hate comments, tell me you fucked my mother. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this, please like, and if you want to see more content like this, feel free to subscribe. And if you do decide to subscribe, don't forget to hit that bell to enable post-bell notifications, and then when that dialog box pops up, you just check that little checkbox and you hit save. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you guys next time.